was dealt a devastating blow overnight.
The nation's most populous county is preparing to bring back an indoor mask mandate if the COVID surge continues.
Don't let people BS you about what's going on here.
And they can lower the price. They can lower the price.
Yeah, they can lower the price.
You and I also discussed America's commitment to ensuring Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon.
Oh my gosh, a major blow got dealt to the Biden Build Back Better 2.0. We'll tell you about that. Also, The View and the Cackling Hens made some ridiculous claims that they can't back up. One of the biggest counties, actually maybe the biggest county in the country, is looking at mask mandates for COVID, which is still a thing for some reason. Also explaining what's going on with Joe Biden's Middle Eastern trip. It's not entirely all bad. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go.
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today it is July 15th, Friday, the year of our Lord 2022. Hope you're going to have a good weekend this weekend. Just hang out, do some things, have some fun stuff. A lot of stuff to get to today, interestingly enough. The Biden administration had a huge hit to its big agenda point that, we'll talk about that first. Senator Joe Manchin, who was the thorn in the side of the Build Back Better OG bill that didn't get through because Joe Manchin realized, hey, we can't be spending this much more money. Because I don't know if you guys have seen, inflation is through the roof. Had the federal government spent the $3.5 trillion, which would probably be closer to $6 or $7 or $8 trillion over the course of 10 years, had they done that and passed that bill, the inflation rate would not be 8.7%. Oh, excuse me, 9.1%. Jeez. It would be something like 20%, or interest rates would be crazy high already, because inflation would have gone even more insane had Joe Manchin not stopped the Build Back Better nonsense back in like November of last year. Well, he's at it again. The Democratic senator from West Virginia, issued another big blow to the Biden administration. CNN talking about it a little bit. Let me play this clip from what CNN's talking about, and then I'll tell you what's actually going on here in the sensible mind of Senator Joe Manchin. Check this out.
His agenda was dealt a devastating blow overnight. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia broke off negotiations, or at least said categorically he will not support any climate spending as part of this possible deal with other Democrats in the Senate. What's going on here?
So the reporter there talks about, quote unquote, what's going on here. So I figured I'd fill that in for you in and of itself. Manchin has informed Schumer, Democrat Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, that if Democrats move on the reconciliation bill in August, he will only support a provision with lower prescription drug prices and a 2-year extension on healthcare prices, yada, 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 but will not unequivocally support anything that includes spending to, quote unquote, fight climate change or taxes on really anybody. But they say here in this article, wealthy individuals or corporations, according to Democrats briefed on talks. Bottom line here is that Joe Manchin, in negotiating with this substantially less spendy bill, I think this quote unquote Build Back Better 2.0 is still spending like $2 trillion, which again, we don't have and can't afford. And inflation is what, 9%, 9.1%. Somebody corrected me in the comment section. Yeah, Gabriel said 9.1%. So yeah, it's not going to get any better if they spend any more money. So Joe Manchin is saying, look, I'm willing to participate, but let's not just go throwing money at the climate change industrial complex that's only going to make inflation go higher. That's basically it. That's basically this entire story. And I don't want to belabor on it because we got a lot of stuff to cover here today. But the bottom line is, thankfully, Joe Manchin, again, Democrat, West Virginia, Democrat who won in a very, very Trumpy state, by the way. So that should go to show you that there are varying degrees of Democrats. Joe Manchin is a right-wing extremist in California. Just, that is what it is. But thankfully, Joe Manchin is the voice of reason and fiscal responsibility in the Senate. David says, great shirt. Thanks. This is my Corruptifornia t-shirt, which, you know what? We'll lead that into our next thing. This is Governor King Dictator Gavin Newsom, the Royal Highness / Dictator of California. Corruptifornia, sorry, as you can see by my shirt, which are available at any of my social media platforms. If you'd like the Corruptifornia t-shirt, if you happen to live in Corruptifornia, you can head on over to any of the social media accounts that I have, and you can buy this hilarious t-shirt. But the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, this is hilarious and so good. And by good, I mean terrible. Gavin Newsom won an award for outstanding innovation in education. Now, here are some major problems with that. Steve Hilton, you might recognize him from Fox News. I believe he has a show on the weekend over at Fox still, and also hosts the Daily Californian, tweeted this after Gavin Newsom wins. Actually, you know what? Let me play this clip first, because a reporter, doesn't matter. Reporter asked Gavin Newsom, hey, you got this award for education. What do you say to any of these pretty damning education statistics coming out of California? Check this out. This is kind of great. Actually, before that, if you haven't already, click the little like button or the little share button or comment or engage or some way, shape, or form, the little react button. It really, really does help us out. I've seen a couple thousand of you watching this right now. I really, really would appreciate it if you just, I don't know, engage with the post in some way. Maybe this makes you angry because seeing the sight of gruesome Newsom's face makes you just so PO'd. Yeah, that works too. But really appreciate you doing so, and it just helps us out, gets us to more people. So smash that little like button and hit the share button if you feel so inclined. Watch this when Gavin gets questioned about. Remember, Gavin went to D.C. to accept an award for innovation in education, which is hilarious. Watch this.
Folks back home have complained that California actually isn't doing enough when it comes to education. The head of the California Republican Party said that we were among the last to open during COVID, that a third of students are not at grade level when it comes to math and science, and that highlighting California's approaches doesn't really make sense. What do you say to those critics?
Well, I'd say what we have seeded are some of the most impactful reforms and innovations. Don't take my word for it. Take the word of this bipartisan group. But there's no question California's outcomes are suboptimal, and we have got to step things up. That's why we're making these investments.
So, okay, all right. So Gavin himself, I didn't even catch the last part of that, says, there's no question that California's outcomes are suboptimal. Now, his idea of optimal is probably very, very different than mine, but it is interesting that he said that. Joseph commented, I don't know what this acronym means. I have no idea. Couldn't even guess what FGN means. Talking about Gavin Newsom, California. I don't know what that could possibly mean. Oh, somebody else, Andrea, said FGN too. Interesting new acronym. I'll have to look that up after the show to see what that means. But Steve Hilton from California hosts the Daily Californian. Maybe we'll get him on here sometime to talk about some Corruptifornia happenings. Said this: California had the worst / longest school closures. 50% of students don't meet state English standards. Only 40% are proficient in math, and we're 50th of 50 on literacy. So California, 50% of students don't meet English standards. 40% are proficient on the math standards. Now, the math standards in California are not high, coming from somebody who went to California public schools and can attest to the fact that math is not the most complicated here in California. And in literacy and being able to read, we are ranked 50 out of 50. And I understand that a lot of you aren't in California, so you probably don't understand why I'm saying we. I live in Southern California, in Corruptifornia, ruled under the dictatorial thumb of one King Gavin Newsom. But 50th out of 50 in people who can read. Sick. Awesome. Yet, nevertheless, the Democrat White House gave Democrat governor and probable Democrat candidate for president Gavin Newsom an award, innovating education. So there is that. I want to get to this, which I think is actually pretty dang interesting. And you know what? Maybe might rub some people the wrong way in terms of possibly giving Joe Biden some credit. So, well, let me play this. I'm going to play this clip first. This is the real reason Joe Biden is in the Middle East, by the way. And from a foreign policy standpoint, I have been brutal on Joe Biden's policies domestically with how he's reacted to inflation, the educational stuff that's being pushed into schools, the way that the federal agencies are taking over and having much more power despite being stopped by the Supreme Court. Have all of my issues with Joe Biden. I'm sure you do too. But from a global perspective, in trying to eliminate threats to the United States, I hope he succeeds. One of the biggest threats to the United States, at least I think most people would agree, is if Iran were to get nukes. Iran is a self-proclaimed terrorist state. They're the biggest actor of terrorism on the world stage over the last, 50 years. And they've said, if we get a nuclear weapon, we will wipe Israel off the face of the earth and nuke the United States. So in the attempt to deny Iran a nuclear weapon, I hope President Biden succeeds. And he seems to be speaking on the side that I would agree with of, not letting Iran get nukes. Watch this clip and then we'll figure out, what's actually going on in the Middle East right now. Check this out.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid signed a joint pledge on Thursday to deny Iran nuclear arms, a show of unity by allies long divided over diplomacy with Tehran.
Today, you and I also discussed America's commitment to ensuring Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. This is a vital security interest to both Israel and the United States, and I would add, for the rest of the world as well. I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome.
Okay, so Joe Biden has signed a joint agreement with Israel that Iran will not get nuclear weapons. Left, right, center, we can all agree that Iran getting nuclear weapons is will be a terrible thing. One of the interesting components here is that it wasn't just the United States saying it. They have a joint statement now with Israel. The United States, we have a joint statement with Israel saying Iran will not get nukes. Joe Biden gave a speech after that signing, gave some remarks saying, well, I hope diplomacy will win out and diplomatic relations between the United States and Iran and agreements can be made that will lead us to not have to use military intervention. It'll be a last resort for us. The Israeli prime minister was not saying the same thing. He's like, nah, diplomacy is not going to work and we're going to have to use military force, which if the Israelis are heading that up with the help, kid you not, of the Saudis, I think we're okay with making sure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Now, in 2015, the United States went into the Iran nuclear deal under President Obama. They completely disregarded that deal. They were basically saying, well, we're just going to use nuclear energy and all that sort of stuff. And the Obama administration was like, okay, we believe you. In 2018, the Trump administration was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. You guys aren't going to be able to do any of that sort of stuff. Trump enacted the Abraham Accords, which, interestingly enough, is going pretty dang well. And the Biden administration is not repealing that. They're kind of piggybacking on it. So, again, all of the gripes that we all have with Joe Biden, this is a particular issue that we want not Joe Biden, but the United States of America as a people and as a whole to succeed on. This also kind of explains why President Biden is going to Saudi Arabia. Yes, the gas prices and the oil and all that sort of stuff. But he's primarily going to Saudi Arabia to shore up the relationships between all of the partners all of the people that we will be working with in the Middle East to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. The Saudis don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. The Israelis don't want to have Iran to have the nuclear weapon. The Saudis and the Israelis don't necessarily get along, but yesterday the Saudis had allowed, for the first time, Israeli airplanes to fly over Saudi airspace. So maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe the common enemy of Iran is going to bring the U.S., Israel, the Saudis all together. And I understand that there, you know what? I actually have an Ilhan Omar quote in here that I wanted to bring up just because it doesn't seem like she understands what being an adult is. So a lot of people are having issues with Joe Biden going to the UAE, going to Saudi Arabia. I have issues with Saudi Arabia. Their human rights track records is terrible. The whole Jamal Khashoggi murder that happened in Turkey, we've all heard about it. The Saudis killing American journalists on Turkish soil is a terrible thing. They have terrible human rights acts, and we don't have to condone those, but we do have to work with them just because that's how geopolitics works. Ilhan Omar, Congresswoman D, Minnesota, lit into Biden for traveling to Saudi Arabia. She tells me, this is a reporter, actually a guy that I know, she tells me, I don't know where to begin. So one, I would say it goes back to his word saying he was going to make MBS a pariah, Omar adds. Yeah, I think it sends the wrong message to everyone who cares about human rights and cares about the United States upholding the values and protecting human rights or advancing democracies or speaking up for women. But I also think, starting this trend of saying you're going to do one thing on foreign policy is really harmful. Being seen on the outside world. Basically, Ilhan Omar slams President Biden for going to Saudi Arabia. I don't think we all want Iran to get nukes. I think that's the main concern here. In terms of the hierarchy of importance, yes, the Saudis have some terrible track records with the way they treat women, with the way they treat their people in general. Yes, that is all true. For us, the United States, our priority is the top, Iran getting nuclear weapons. And if the Saudis, in spite of the terrible track record that they have, can aid in that big hierarchical goal, geopolitics is difficult, Miss Omar. That's just the way the world works. I wish people could be more realistic about that. I'm going to stop belaboring on that, and I want to get to this. This is health experts in California. We're going to transition entirely back to the state of Corruptifornia. In the comment section, I would actually love to hear your take on this. Is anybody thinking about COVID anymore? Is that a thing that crosses your mind in a day-to-day work environment, in social engagements, just out and about in your neighborhood? I live in Southern California, the epicenter of COVID craziness, and nobody is doing anything at all anymore that would even resemble the fact that we're still in this whole COVID thing. So despite the fact that nobody cares about it at all, health experts, and I wanted to show a picture of the LA County quote-unquote health expert who would rival Lori Lightfoot in a contest, a Beetlejuice costume contest. That was mean. That's probably the lowest I've sunk in terms of jokes-wise. But LA health experts are saying mask mandates are coming back in LA. Watch this from Good Morning America, and we'll discuss what's going on. Check it out.
The nation's most populous county is preparing to bring back an indoor mask mandate if the COVID surge continues.
This morning here in LA County, the nation's largest county, home to 10 million people, we could be 2 weeks away from reinstating an indoor mask mandate here.
So that's basically the bottom line. We are 2 weeks away from inserting a mask mandate, which is something that I've been complaining about delayed mandates for the entire time that COVID has been a thing, especially on this show. I am not for mandates. I don't think they work. I don't think that anybody pays attention to them, especially in the redder parts of the country. But even if you did like mandates, I don't understand delaying them. This is super important and we need to crack down in 2 weeks. That's never made any sense to me. I don't understand it. But Los Angeles County is officially moved into the quote-unquote high COVID activity level, which, by the way, those metrics and numbers are all arbitrary, so who knows what they mean. Public Director of Health, Dr. Barbara Ferrer, confirmed the move on Thursday afternoon, in which she said this about exemptions to the quote-unquote mask mandates that are coming to Los Angeles County. Watch this clip. This is just kind of funny. Also, if you haven't already, would really appreciate it. Just click the little like button, click the little share button, or the little angry button. I don't know. Maybe this makes you very upset, or humorous. The Lori Lightfoot joke and the Beetlejuice joke with maybe that made you laugh a little bit. Who knows? Would really appreciate you engaging with the content just to help us keep the ball rolling. Anyways, here's this clip from the health expert in Los Angeles County. Watch this.
So that people can be well prepared. We are not offering exemptions for gyms. I'm not sure what else you mentioned, and yoga studios at this time. Again, spread is super high everywhere. We have lots and lots of outbreaks. So we are going to just ask that everybody go ahead with that indoor masking or move those indoor activities outdoors.
Okay, there's too many directions to go here. I'll say this. The fact that COVID is still around should be a pretty precise indication that none of the mandates really worked. And I thought we'd all realized that this is just going to be here. And it's unfortunate, and it's just a disease that we're just going to have to deal with for the rest of humanity. Again, unfortunately, nobody wants that to happen, but that's just the reality. But instead, you have people, despite the lack of their policies working for the last 2 years, still pushing those same policies. I don't understand how. I don't know. It's like if I'm nailing something into the wall and I put my thumb on top of the nail and nail my thumb, guess what? That's going to hurt. And I'm just trying to figure out a way to nail this thing into the wall without hurting my thumb. And guess what? You know what? Maybe I'm going to try this again. Maybe I'm going to wait for my thumb to heal and put it back on the nail and hammer it again. Dude, okay. I can, there's some comments here that are, they're not very charitable to the LA County health advisor. But we'll just see. This is super important, according to them, so we're going to have to wait 2 weeks to incite it to implement a mask mandate. All right, whatever. You know what? Okay, right, pause. I kind of hope, from a social, cultural experiment standpoint, I don't want to say I hope, but I wouldn't be upset at a mask mandate going into LA just so that I can see who pays attention. There are mask mandates in LA County transportation system still. I recently flew out of Burbank, which is in LA County. There's still a mask mandate in the airport. Nobody, not a single person was wearing a mask. So from a sociological theory standpoint, I wouldn't mind seeing this dictator of California's biggest county, the country's biggest county, saying, you all have to wear masks. And I kind of would love to see the entire population to go, yeah, no. Maybe that would be good for the country. Who knows? Let's get to this. You know what? Right here. Here we go. This is short. This is short and sweet. But any time to hit Elizabeth Warren is a good thing for me. Native American Senator Elizabeth Warren dodges questions about whether or not she thinks SCOTUS addresses and locations should be doled out and incentivized by activist groups. Watch this. This happened on Fox News. She was asked a question and then immediately got into her car and slammed the door. Check it out.
Senator, an activist group is offering to pay people if they send in the locations of justices. Do you think that this has gone too far at this point?
So there's that. That's apparently what she thinks about that. Also, she definitely heard the question. And also, she should have, as a good American, just, by the way, too, if the roles were flipped and that was like, what, Mitch McConnell, and somebody was putting out AOC's known location all the time, and I don't know, CNN reporter asked, hey, Mitch McConnell, do you think that somebody should be putting out AOC's constant location? And he refused to answer the question and refused to say, no, they shouldn't do that. I would be just as upset. This is not a partisan issue. This is a decency issue. She very easily could have said, no, don't do that, and then got in her car and walked away. She didn't need to answer follow-up. She could have very easily directly said, do not use violence to justify your political ideology, but instead just ignored the question. And again, I maintain the fact that if it was Mitch McConnell on the other side of the aisle, it's the exact opposite. If a senator from the side of the aisle that I tend to like did the same thing, I would be just as irritated about it. Becky says, Warren disgusts me. Correct. Me too. I want to get to, you know what? We're going to get to this before we get to, so there's a funny thing after this that I don't want to be at all disrespectful to the nation as a whole, to the national anthem, but it's just funny and sad and weird, and maybe we should bomb somebody because of it. But we'll play that after this. We'll send you off into the weekend on that note. This is the Cackling Hens on The View and their assessment of how the economy works. Check this out. This is Whoopi Goldberg, America's. So I've made the joke that I've heard many times. Isn't it interesting that the two most annoying, angry people on TV are named Whoopi and Joy? This is kind of funny to me. Anyways, listen to the Cackling Hens on The View talk about just lower the prices. Duh, just lower the prices. Watch this.
It's an important trip that he be there. I hope that he raises human rights when he's there. I think that he will. But I've got to say this. He stopped domestic production, and now we're relying on egregious human rights violators like the Saudis to produce more oil. He even at one point talked about Venezuela to go. So I would say this. I'm a conservative environmentalist. We need an all-of-the-above approach to energy. But when we're in a crisis and people can't afford gas, we need to be doing domestic production, not relying on human rights.
Or maybe we can rely on the people who are in charge of domestic production, like all the oil companies.
Just pause real quick. This lady, I'm not sure who she is, but I agree with that take. And Whoopi Goldberg's about to go in and blow it up.
Who own it, they could release some of that too. I mean,
and they can lower the price. They can lower the price.
Yeah, they can lower the price. So this is, again, don't let people BS you about what's going on here. You have the right, when you go in to vote, for the people who actually care about what's happening with you. And you have to keep an eye out for that.
I love that you brought that point up, Whoopi, because a lot of these oil companies are in Texas. Lower the prices for Americans. Lower those prices. Yeah. They're making so much money on oil here.
Yeah. Oil and gas.
It's oil and gas here in the United States.
But you know what?
Need the money.
We may sound gassy, but we're not.
Guys, we figured it out. The View commentators figured out the economy. Just freaking lower the prices. Why hadn't I thought of this? The solution has been sitting in front of our face the entire time. What? Just lower the prices. Of course, that's a ridiculous way to look at the world and at the economy and at, just life in general. I can go on about this. So you're talking like oil workers. They should also just lower their salaries, but inflation is going up, so they should lower their take-home pay. And also the manufacturers that make all of the oil rigs and the refineries, they should just lower their prices also so the oil companies can buy them for cheaper, so that could lower their prices. Just lower the prices. There was a tweet, I was trying to find it during that clip. Fetterman, who's the guy running in Pennsylvania against Oz? Anyways, he a week or two ago, put out a statement, saying ExxonMobil is projected to make $18 billion in profit this year. Okay, that's fine. Let's work with that. They're estimated to make $18 billion in profit. The View hosts think that, well, they should not make any of that profit. They should just eliminate all of their markup and just lower the prices. To put that in context, in 2019, which is the best year to reference for a normal year that didn't have COVID, ExxonMobil made $58 billion in profit. So saying that they made $18 billion, while that number seems pretty high, comparatively is a huge loss. And maybe it's $52 billion. I can't remember the numbers specifically. Anyways, it's a simple Google search. Just look up what ExxonMobil made in 2019, and you'll see that, guess what? Companies make a profit, and their profit now, even though you're saying $18 billion is a big number, is still substantially less than they were making in the past. And also, just FYI, ExxonMobil being a publicly traded company, if you have a 401k and you're invested in things like energy, which you should be, a profit for the oil companies is going to do good for your retirement, which I would guarantee you that all of these people that watch The View, and maybe not on The View because they're rich as, I don't know, rich gets, but it's going to help your bottom line regardless. So let's get out of here with just lower the prices. Whatever. Anyways, I want to get onto this before we end the show. All right. I want to make it abundantly clear that this is not at all attempt to be disrespectful to the country, to the national anthem, to the men and women who've served this country. This is not any of that. This is strictly just kind of funny. The president, being in the Middle East, visited some of the Palestinian leaders, and the Palestine Authority Guard, I think that's what they're called, played the national anthem, the United States national anthem, for the president. It sounded like a junior high marching band in their second rehearsal. Again, I'm not playing this at all to be disrespectful at all to the country. I'm just, you know what, maybe what do we do? How do we respond to this as the United States of America? Listen to this. We'll scrub through it because I don't think you can take all that much more of it, or the entire thing. I don't think you can take the entire thing. But this is what President Biden was treated to in Palestine. Watch this. Okay, so here's the question. What happened there? Are they just bad at music? Again, this is the Palestinian National Guard Authority, whatever it's called, tried to play the national anthem for the President of the United States as he made his visit to Palestinian leaders, or said hello to Palestinian. I don't know what he was doing. But yeah, Casey says elementary school band. Yeah, that was bad. And so here's the question. Are they just not good at music? Or was this an affront to the American president in his face on foreign soil? Somebody tweeted, we've carpet bombed countries for less. I didn't say that. Somebody else said that. Was this an attack on the pride of American citizens? In which case, should we respond? I don't know. Probably not. But that was bad. There are some people saying at least they tried. They tried their best. Yeah, maybe give them some credit. Hey, at least they played it. But at the same time, Palestinian people are not entirely huge fans of the United States, given our pro-Israel take on things. So maybe it was butchered just enough to make us go, was that on purpose, or are they just bad at playing music? I don't know. There's a mix of these comments here. They suck. Again, wow, they suck. But there's also give them credit. They did their best. They made an effort. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Sherry says so off pitch. Watching from YouTube, by the way. Cool. YouTube's not nearly as big as our Facebook audience, but appreciate you watching on all the platforms. Yeah, so that is what it is. And so with that, we'll send you off into the weekend with that beautiful music from the Palestinian Authority Band. Yeah, so that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you tuning in each and every day this week. Sorry again for Tuesday. So we're going to try. So if you weren't here Wednesday, it doesn't matter. Tuesday, we tried to do the show remotely and it just didn't work. Technical difficulties, and so we just didn't do it. So we're trying that same thing on Monday. We'll see. Hopefully we've got some better equipment working with us. But yeah, we'll be live Monday from Phoenix, Arizona. But enjoy your weekend. It's my dad's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Dad. I think he's turning 64. Yeah, we'll be hanging out with family, doing the family thing. So I think you should too. If you haven't already given me a follow on any of your social media accounts, just at JOBOB. You can find me on any social media account, Twitter, Gitter, Instagram, YouTube, all those. You know the spiel. If you've been here the entire time, you know the spiel already. You probably watch most days, and you know the spiel. Just any of those social media accounts, you can follow me. We can chat and correspond there. That's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. We will see you on Monday. God bless America.